Phineas and Ferb is an original cartoon on Disney Channel, created by Dan Parvermere. You know, that guy who used to work on Family Guy, and Jeff Swampy Marsh. Well, that wasn't known to the series is that both creators widely hate Disney monopolizing it, and the show's original concept goes beyond just a normal kids cartoon. Once an episode about Dr. Hen's Doofenshmirtz's real intentions was produced secretly by a good part of the staff who ran the risk of being fired without thinking twice. Even some of the original voice actors were involved. The episode was eventually leaked by an anonymous user who uploaded it and did a little trendy cartoon forum. That day my computer was doing an annoying noise like if it were to break down. My brother insisted me to examine it for the CPU and was going to literally burn up. Anyways, I was browsing online forum when I discovered a post about an unreleased episode of Phineas and Ferb. Curious, I clicked on the download link included by the poster. I had some time to download it before having to visit my grandparents' house. When we got back around 1 a.m., as soon as I got home, I started the episode, and as expected, my computer kept making that hideous noise. The episode was titled The Horrible Death of Phineas. Now, according to the summary, this was an alternative episode where they finally get caught and sent to Camp Smileway. The episode began as usual, with both Phineas and Ferb having Isabella's troop group help modify their family car and their flying machine. Also, Ferb was building an airport tower for the car. At this time, the huge crowd was present as witness complete masterpiece. Meanwhile, Perry is called upon the Major Monogram to fight against the Doofenshmirtz. The Monogram tells Perry that Doofenshmirtz is planning to destroy the entire tri-state area by using an atomic bomb that he must stop him. When Perry goes off to the battle of Doofenshmirtz at his headquarters, the Doctor explains that he's truly fed up with being treated like an imbecile and plans to kill everyone by detonating a nuclear warhead. Suddenly, Doofenshmirtz then drew a pistol and opened fire against Perry, who is forced to run away because he couldn't fight someone holding an actual weapon. The gun was real. It made holes on the lair's walls and ceiling. As escape followed, rather a demented and cruel red-eyed Doofenshmirtz who has engaging expression on his face. I was completely shocked by overall deception of it. It appears as if Doofenshmirtz has really gone mad. Doofenshmirtz then chased after Perry after a short sequence of him almost being killed, but is luckily manages to avoid the shots. When he reached Phineas's backyard, Cadence and Ferb's invention in every episode, soon Phineas walks in towards his mama, showing her a flying car. However, in that exact moment, Doofenshmirtz opens fire and Perry dodges the bullet in slow motion sequence place as Doofenshmirtz accidentally shot Phineas. When the bullet hits him, everything turned into Macaron and as hide and seek by Anglo Heat played. Phineas was now lying on the lawn with a pool of his own blood, but Phineas and Ferb style. The video goes back to color when Phineas is in the lawn, and a noticeable bright red puddle of blood. As the crowd glares, horrified at Doofenshmirtz, as the scene then cuts abruptly after showing Phineas lying in the puddle of his own blood, staring at the sky. In fact, that's when Act 1 ends. Act 2 started with the funeral, and now everything seems to be extremely depressing. The mortality was just mostly black stained glass with windows which enlightened the room. There were depressing monotone. Cadence, Linda, Lawrence, and Ferb all looked very forlorn, and the explorer troop was laminating as well. As the camera focused on the 2 minutes of Isabella crying, it sounded as if it was real, as if the actress was actually crying while filming the episode. Cadence, in extreme grief, regrets about the whole being furious of hitting Phineas's coffin, and crying that this wouldn't believe it happened if she tried to catch them. That's when Act 2 abruptly cuts to black. Act 3 begins with the text 2 days later, on Phineas's house, which seen from the outside, but it was cloudy and gloomy. Cadence was in her room, extremely distressed, and a rigid smile and hanging from the ceiling. Now the humming of the Beatles song, Yellow Submarine. Soon, Germany enters the house. Cadence through the backyard and goes into the kitchen, offering his condolences to Linda, but also asks for Cadence. So Linda happily tells him that she's upstairs, but when Germany enters her room, he sees in horror that Cadence had taken her own life and just died a few minutes ago. Germany takes down everything he sees, and passionately, that's when Linda enters and then sees this and screams, "Germany, how could you?" Figured that Germany had killed her. After that, it cuts to a scene where both Phineas' parents, Ferb, Isabella, Badge, Bufford, and Doofenshmirtz's ex-wife, Clarelang, Vanessa, and Major Monogram, Carl, and Perry ran inside of a state prison with Doofenshmirtz strapped into a chair. All of them have twisted 6 smiles at the purest and unhealthiest sadistic joy. He begs for mercy, but Major Monogram simply orders to proceed with the concept they decide to put him through. Now Perry was smiling in a sick, morbid way as watches him right before his death. The sequence of real photos appear on screen. They were a man wearing a lab coat and a little girl playing at the park. All of the actors didn't resemble Doofenshmirtz or his daughter, Vanessa. They clearly represented them. After that, the last thing we see is Vanessa kissing passionately with someone. It was so crazy that I nearly vomited. We didn't know what she was kissing. Probably someone that she likes. Doofenshmirtz finally dies in a way, but of course for the suffering, and that was the end. Ferb simply states, irony is cruel, but not as much as hell. Then the episode ended with Doofenshmirtz's lifeless body being shown on a pile of corpses, along with Germany's fresh one. The next morning I looked again for that episode. Google shown of undesired results of the same forum. However, the user was banned and the file was possibly no longer exists. And that, my little pretties, was Phineas and Ferb Lost Episode. A Phineas and Ferb Lost Episode creepypasta. My final thoughts on the story. This story, I'm going to be completely honest, was not that good. Now, the reason why I'm saying that it wasn't good, it was that, let's see. Oh, yeah. Before I get with, what I didn't like about it, I do have a few positives that I am going to say. But first, let's go on with, the whole concept. Now, to be honest, I really do like the fact that the grammar of this story is actually pretty good. That's one thing I really would like to say, is that the grammar of this story is pretty good. Now, the sentence structuring was really good as well as the storyline and everything that went out. Well, not the storyline, but the storyline, the beginning first half was pretty good, but when it got to the episode, that's when it started to go downhill. Like, the episode started going downhill with, the cliches, such as the the blood, the gore. Well, there wasn't gore, but there was blood. And then, it had, certain things that really didn't sit well with me. And they were just unnecessary. That's one of the main issues I have to say about this story, was that it wasn't really that satisfying, in my opinion. It wasn't really that satisfying. The story just didn't really make a whole lot of sense. It was just not that great. Like, don't get me wrong, the story itself did have an interesting concept, but, mainly the first part, of the episode, but with all due sincerity, the story just wasn't that great to even begin with. The story, it did have, an interesting concept, but the whole story of its own self was just not that great. And that's mainly disappointing, because, this story could have had something, really interesting. It could have had an interesting concept for how this story went out, but unfortunately, this story is just cliched. Maybe just the last half of it was when it was starting to get cliched, so, yeah, there's definitely that. But I really would have to say that this story just, I don't know, this story just wasn't that great. Mainly the last half of the story was just garbage. The first half of it, however, was actually, quite interesting. It did have somewhat of an interesting concept for what this is, so there's definitely that. But the whole story of its own self was just, I don't really know what to think. This story just, I think the main issue was that like the last paragraph, like the last part of the story was just not that great. Like I think it's with because it was cliched and all that. So I guess that's probably one of the main reasons. But I mean, this story could have had, somewhat of a potential, but unfortunately with this case, the story just didn't work. Like, I mean, this story just did not really work out with me. Like, I'm being completely honest. The story just wasn't that great. Now, I would have to say that, like, the grammar was pretty good. I'm not gonna lie, along with the sentence structuring. Although, I did spot maybe a few grammatical errors in the story, so that was actually one of the reasons why I kinda wasn't really crazy on the story. But I mean, the story was not terrible. I'm not gonna like it. I just didn't really care for this story. This story was just one of my least favorites. Like, I mean, I'm not crazy on the story. I never really, cared about this story like a whole lot. Like, it did have somewhat of an interesting concept at the beginning, but unfortunately, when it got to the episode, it just failed miserably. That's just all I have to say. Like, this is no hate to the author in any way, shape, or form. I'm just saying this because, well, it's just my opinion. This story, what I would suggest the story to do is maybe the story has, like, well, maybe a rewrite or something. At least that way it would be a lot more easier, in my opinion, but it would also be a lot more, well, a better concept per se. Like the episode itself just wasn't that perfect or great to even remotely begin with. But yeah, I'm not sure who the author of this story is, so the author knows that this is not me trying to hate on the story. This is not me bashing it. This is just me sitting there, expressing my opinion on the story. Like, I think this might have been like a very old story, but I'm not really sure. I think Shadow might have narrated this on his old channel. I don't really remember. He might have, but I don't really remember because it's been like quite a long time. But I would have to say to the author, I really hope you do went out of your way and make better stories. Like, I'm really hoping he or she decides to sit there and, make better stories, but, that's just me here or there. But I guess I kind of, explained some things. And the ending just, with the whole thing disappearing afterwards, like, I mean, like, with the file possibly no longer exists, was there, like, a possibility that somebody could have, downloaded it easily before that happened? Like, that would be, a possibility. But I also would have to sit here and say that, and the user was banned, which I wouldn't sit there and, yeah. But to be completely honest, now, yeah, to be completely honest, and I'm going to sit here and just say this, is that, well, the person getting banned for posting this episode, I would not blame them for sitting there and doing that. But it's just here or there. I'm just saying. This story, like, I mean, I'm not crazy on this story. Never really was a fan of this story. I mean, it's not terrible, but it just wasn't that great. And that's just all I have to say. Like, I did hear saying that, the Disney confirmed that the episode was real and was originally planned to end the series, but it was scrapped from the test viewers as little kids, and I'm not really sure if that's even real or not. I'm just reading a comment that said that. I really don't know. But I guess with that being the case, that being said, I'm going to sit there and wrap up the review. There's nothing really much I have to say about this story. But like I'm going to say, and like I always continue to say, this is just simply my own personal opinion. And if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions in regards to these creepypasta. And this is simply my creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of this story would have to be I'm going to give this one a 4 out of 10. It has a really good concept at the beginning and all that, but when it got to the episode, it just started to go downhill, and when it got to, well, I guess, the last part of the episode, it just didn't really make a whole lot of sense, especially with the cliches involved into it, and especially some things that didn't really make like a whole lot of sense in there. So yeah, that's just definitely that. But yeah, anyways, I guess with that being the case and with that being said, I'm gonna sit there and just say this. What did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you all not? Also, what we have done personally to help make this story a lot better. Now, before I head out, I want to say that to the original author, if I find out who the original author is, I'll be sure to give him or her proper credit. If he or she happens to see this video, I'll be and comments on it, I will be sure to give the author proper credit. But other than that, yeah. Anyways, I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode, and if you're happy to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell to when I upload, so then you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.